want stability and a place that shows love. You just wanna have a good life, good life. Come to New West Side, a great place to grow, a great place to know for you and your family. Near West Side, neighborhood of neighborhoods, where leaves just lovely people, so come to Near West Side. Please follow, like, and subscribe.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in for this week's weekly webinar. Before we get into today's discussion, I do want to make just a couple announcements. As always, we have events on our calendar. I can drop that link into the chat real quick, just so people have it. But it's on our website. And we post events on there. Other organizations are welcome to post their events that are happening in the neighborhood as well. Just an announcement in terms of our staff, we do have a new employee. So Dia Henderson is our new housing resource coordinator. It's a new position and she'll be leading all of our housing initiatives. So really helping to strengthen those, including the Live, Work, Play incentive and repair program, and then housing surveys as a part of the RON Coalition. So we're really excited to have a new staff member. And yeah, just wanted to give everyone a heads up about that. I also wanted to announce that the Arbor Fest last weekend was a huge success. This was our first annual event handing out native plants and trees to the community, and we handed out over 500 plants and trees, and had about 100 visitors. So it was a really exciting event over at the Potawatomi Development Corporation's campus. And lastly, I just wanted to announce an event this Saturday and this upcoming Tuesday, so June 11th and June 14th, there will be savvy cycling classes for bubbler bikes. So there's details about that on our website and with the event calendar. So just wanted to make those few announcements before we get into today's discussion. I want to welcome Brynn and Emily, both from Quorum, and so we're gonna talk a little bit about their role with Quorum Architects and in the Near West Side. Thank you both for joining us. Just to get started, I want to kind of ask how long each of you have been working for Quorum and what your roles are.
Yeah, Emily, do you want to start?
Sure. Yeah, my name is Emily Neal. I've been with Quorum for about 7 years now. I graduated from UWM back in 2015, which feels like a lifetime ago. I am an associate, so that means I just have a lot of different responsibilities at Quorum. I am our sustainability lead, so any sort of green design project that we have, I will be involved in. I do a lot of our BIM coordination, so building information modeling. It's just a big term to talk about 3D modeling and working with construction and contractors. And then just project managing a lot of our community projects. I've been lucky enough to kind of be really involved in the Near West Side the 7 years that I've been at Quorum. So yeah, a little bit about me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, and hi, my name is Brynn DeBrabent. I've been at Quorum Architects a little over a year now. So I graduated from UWM in May of last year. And my role is project assistant, and I ultimately provide support to my design teams. I have been involved throughout pretty much the whole architectural project phases. So like pre-design through construction documents. And then I do have some of my projects that are going into construction soon. So I'm really excited for that. And yeah, I mean, I am Emily's right-hand woman, I would say. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you both for joining us today. And yeah, it's cool to hear. I didn't really realize that. I know you work closely together, but didn't know exactly what your titles were or the work that you're officially assigned. So thank you. Yeah. So can you give some insight into the role that architecture plays in community work, just like in general, and then maybe locally in Milwaukee?
Yeah, I can start. So I think architecture is really important in developing communities. Sometimes, you know, if you don't have an eye for it or you haven't really been involved in architecture before, you don't really notice it, but it's kind of always there. So like when you walk around and you see like a pocket park, or you see a way that a building kind of touches the street, or it has some type of seating outside, like that's architecture, that's design, that's the way that we connect with place. So placemaking. It's also, you know, bringing back a lot of the work that we do in the Near West Side is bringing back some of those vacant storefront properties, kind of bringing back the local economy, making sure that there's a place that the community has to live, work, and play. I know that's a term that we always use, right? And then just a lot of the work that we do is designing community venues. So like the new Concordia 27 development, you know, like a place where there's resources, there's housing, and community event spaces for gathering. I mean, that is everything that kind of brings a community together and kind of builds it up. So that's how I define it.
Yeah, I would second what Emily said. I mean, I think first and foremost, the people who live in our communities are the ones that know it the best. So it's really important to like actually try to learn about those people, because in order to be a successful project, it has to work for them. And I think like a way that Quorum does that specifically, like we are always like out in the community, we're staying busy, we're learning new things, we're meeting people or making relationships, and we use that to apply it to our projects and to make like the neighborhoods a better place to be. And I think like I specifically care about community-based projects because it's just so exciting to see a building like fostering human connection and like interaction amongst people is like so cool to see and exciting to me. So yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. I love the way that you guys are talking about, you know, placemaking and involving the community in that. I think that like you can't have one without the other, right? So yeah, it's cool to hear the terminology that you guys use, because it's like the other side of the coin of, you know, Near West Side Partners is more that community side, but we definitely need to be working together in order to make those changes long term.
Yeah.
So what is your favorite project you've worked on so far? Emily, I know you've been with Quorum a little bit longer, but Brynn, I know you've done a lot of amazing work in this past year. So we'll just start with that.
Yeah, Brynn, you want to start?
Sure. I mean, yeah, you're right. I haven't been in the industry very long, but I'm not being biased just because you guys are the ones that are interviewing me. But Concordia 27 has probably been like my most favorite project that I've worked on. Just the enthusiasm surrounding the project has been amazing and like just so refreshing to work with, because I mean, we're working like day in and day out on this project, but it doesn't really feel like work, you know, like it more so just feels like a project that I'm passionate about, or like a hobby that I'm passionate about and I've been working on. So I just think that, I mean, all parties have been amazing to work with as well. And it's just been so exciting and open-minded. So yeah, I would say that.
Yeah, I echo that. I think the Concordia development is like so exciting. And there's so many different pieces to it. And like to get to learn like how one operates versus the other, and then how they still need to talk, and like what that shared space like overlap is between the different users. It is a really exciting development.
It is.
Enough that I've been around the Near West Side for a few years that I've had the opportunity to work on a lot of other smaller projects that have been built and constructed or in the process of being built. So I mean, we'll have the Vibes Paint and Sip soon coming over on the Valete area. We'll have, you know, and like there'll be a, you know, Central Bark maybe be relocating to the Near West Side. There's just a lot of other projects that are smaller and you don't think about when you think of the grandness of Concordia 27, but each little one, I mean, does so much to uplift the Near West Side.
Yeah.
So yeah.
100%.
Yeah, totally. I think that those smaller projects were like how we were able to get to this, you know, bigger project. If without that like groundwork, you know, over time, then we wouldn't have that interest in a bigger development. So it's all important for sure. And just for anyone that's watching and doesn't know about the project, we do have the Concordia 27 development project that we just received $5 million from the state, so it's really exciting, and there's still some funding to go, but we are really excited about just the community interest and the state interest in that project. We have multiple partners going into that space, so it'll be on 27th and Wells, and Rick Wiegand is the developer of that project, and we have Near West Side Partners offices are going to be going in there. Sustaining Wellness in Milwaukee is going in there. The Center for Independence, previously Milwaukee Center for Independence. And am I missing any partners? Oh, Fruition MPE. So they will be doing kind of a business incubator co-working space, which will be really awesome to see. So it is a very large project, but I'm happy that it has been enjoyable for both of you to work on. Is there a project that has challenged you that maybe has been a learning curve, and maybe it's the same one, I don't know, but happy to hear about, the other side of the coin too.
I mean, I don't want to like name any names, but a project that has really challenged me, honestly, is like a smaller housing project in the Near West Side. And I think that's been so challenging because it was the first project that I've ever worked on, like in the industry before. And I'm still working on it to this day. So I feel like I've just learned a lot over the past year, and I would have done things a little bit differently had I known. But that's the learning experience of it all. So yeah, I would say that it's that one for sure.
Yeah, there's always going to be those harder projects, especially because a lot of what we do is working with existing buildings. And sometimes we have information from a building that's very outdated. So trying to work with, what we have now, what we've been trying to develop, or if it's just like the foundation of an existing building is like crap basically, and we have to rebuild it. I mean, that's a lot of learning opportunities for us as younger workers coming into this architecture profession of how do we deal with that, how do we design in detail to that, to make just the foundation that the building is sitting on like work, so that it can get really difficult. I mean, even the Concordia 27 development is in an older existing historic building. So there's a lot that we have to think about, the historic requirements of what we can and cannot touch, holes in the roof. Like, how do we fix that? How do we support the structure that's there, just so that we can then go into the building and start designing the interior spaces to be what it is, down the road. So there's a lot that goes into the architecture side that, I don't always think about.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah. Brynn, would you add anything to that? Sorry, I didn't want to.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, I feel like a lot of people still that have been in the industry for a long time, they're still learning. And I think that, I got to cut myself some slack here because I am just a year into the industry.
Totally.
But I would say that it's very vast and there's a lot to learn, and each project is different. So especially in our unique business of the revitalizing older buildings. So yeah,
definitely. Yes. Cut yourself some slack. it's there is that learning curve, but like you said, everyone is learning. And it sounds to me like each project you're going to have, if it's a unique building, especially the historic ones that we have in the Near West Side, and you want to honor that history and make sure you're not, changing it too much, or, there's really unique features that go into the architecture in the Near West Side. So honoring that and making sure we amplify that. But then you're right, I didn't really think about all of the background work that has to go into making sure that that structure is solid before really building it out. So and so maybe this is kind of a good transition into some of the main lessons that you've learned while working with Quorum, and that's a very general question, so I'll let you guys take it whatever direction you want to take it.
branching off of what I just said, I feel like projects undergo an iterative process. We learn about it in school a little bit, where they say like you take one design and then you kind of meld it into something else, and then like maybe you take elements from it and make a new project, or like it's more of like you go through these phases and try to make it better. Projects do go through an iterative process. I cannot say that enough. Like you learn in school, they say like, oh, like you don't have unlimited budget or blah, blah, blah. But that is so true in the profession. You do not have unlimited budget. You do not have the perfect dream client. You don't have unlimited time. So the process will fluctuate from project to project. And I think, yeah, that's unique to our profession. Another thing I have learned just from working like in the Near West Side, I would say like it's extremely important to consider the context surrounding a project site. So I mean, I'm referring to like the deep rooted history of why a neighborhood is the way that it is in the city of Milwaukee, and how can we help as architects to not let history repeat itself exactly, but to take that history and use it, like keep it in your mind to make informed decisions with the project. And then lastly, I would say that I have just learned so much about my career, like what I'm actually interested in pursuing in my professional development. And yeah, I'm really thankful for that. So.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I think there's so much I could talk about, but I think Brynn kind of talked about it a little bit, about that time piece, right? And every project is going to be so different, and you can just do what you can do, right? Like you do as much as you can with the time frame that you're given, with the budget that you're given, and you have to be patient. You have to, learn how the right way to talk with contractors is, the right way to talk with engineers is, right? Because it's kind of all over the place. So forming those relationships, I think, is really important. So like networking and getting people that are going to be on your side, and that you can say, hey, I don't really understand that. Can you explain it a little bit better? And yeah, I think it's just important to listen, especially as we're doing community projects. A lot of what Brynn and I have done over this, was it last summer? I don't know. We did
last summer.
Community park project where we were doing a lot of public engagement. So, trying to meet people where they are, making sure that we're offering a variety of ways for people to get engaged, to listen, to not put your opinion over theirs, to really let them guide the decisions. I think that's all lessons that come out of just working in the architecture profession that I've learned so far. So
yeah.
100%. And I think that your answers kind of tie together too, that like, historically these disadvantaged, disinvested neighborhoods are going to be historically ignored when it comes to community work. So really taking that time to listen to those community members, and then also taking that time to invest into those buildings and invest into that work, like they go hand in hand, so yeah. I'm glad that like that's incredible to hear that those are takeaways that you've had. Yeah. Are there any experiences or people that have been important leading you to this work? So maybe that was in school, maybe that has been, while you've been working at Quorum. I don't know. I just wanted to give a chance to, if there's anyone that you wanted to give a shout out to, or any experiences that you feel were really impactful for you.
I think for me, our boss, Allison Nemec, has really, since I started at Quorum 7 years ago, taken me under her wing and just said, hey, we're involved in the community, and this is why it's important. And I've just kind of like said, oh my gosh, yeah, like this is obviously like so important. And she's really showed a good example of like being involved in so many different things, and like how it's important to be on like different boards and have connections and have these other people and relationships with Near West Side partners, right? Like all of these things that come with being so involved just make it a lot easier to understand than like when a project goes through certain things. I also like, there are a few professors at UWM that were above just the regular teaching. I mean, they're no longer there now, but they really connected me to like the ecology of place and like the importance of community design. So yeah, there's tons of mentors along the way and still are, even when it comes to like the more technical and the code. I mean, Mark Knapp at our office is like amazing when it comes to helping with stuff like that, because a lot of it is over our head until we get to that point in our career where we totally understand it. There's a lot of good mentors at Quorum.
Yeah, 100%. I would say the same thing that Emily said. Allison, Mark, Chris, like they're all leaders in our firm. And I think that we're like really lucky to have those and people to look up to. And I mean, I think it started pretty young in my childhood, just like leading up to this work, I guess, like to your question, and Marie, I would say I grew up like in a very creative mindset. Like it's just so funny thinking back to like when my older brothers, they were like outside riding skateboards or riding ATVs or something. I would just like be like painting and drawing, sitting at the dining room table.
Love that.
Yeah. But like I was like always using my hands to create art. And also I think my dad is an inspiration to me. He has been in plastic injection molding and engineering for my whole life. He went right into that from Bradley Tech High School. So I think that's like where I got like my technical skills and brain from. So then going into high school, I found a liking to like my math studies and also as well as my creative art studies. And then, yeah, it just kind of clicked for me in high school, I would say. I would spend hours designing playing card houses. I used to play Roller Coaster Tycoon all the time, designing parks.
Yeah.
Drawing fashion designs, I feel like I was always destined to be a designer of some sort. So
Wow.
Emily, like what was your childhood like for you, like growing up?
Yeah, I was just thinking as you were talking, I was like, well, what
Yeah.
how did we get to this? I don't know. I think my mom's side was they came from like a farming background, and my grandpa was a draftsperson of some sort. I don't know the actual. So I think there's just like that, like you said, like that technicalness in our family. But as long as I can remember, I would just always be drawing floor plans in school, like in middle school, and like getting in trouble with the teacher. Or if we would go to the grocery store, my mom would be like, "Oh, you want this like girly magazine?" I was like, "No, I want the house plan magazine." Like pictures and like
Yeah.
Like, so I think, yeah, it kind of just has always been there that I was interested in it. I mean, there's definitely been hard points. Like I wasn't fully supported in high school by my art teacher. He was like, "Oh, you're just a woman. Like you're going to be the only woman in your class." Like I don't need that, like I'm going to do my best. So there's definitely obstacles, but yeah.
Yeah, it's so cool to hear about people that like kind of always had an inkling that they were going to go into a certain field. And I guess everyone at some point kind of figures it out, but it's cool to hear your backstories a little bit and hear that it was always kind of in you to do work like this. And Emily, to your point, that's kind of leading into my next question. How has Brynn being a woman of color impacted your experience in the architecture field? And maybe that goes back to being in school. You can take that how you want to, and maybe that's positive impact, maybe that's negative impact. I feel like there might be a little bit of both, but yeah, just curious.
Yeah, I don't know, Brynn, if you want to start, but
sure. Yeah. I mean, I feel like I haven't in the industry yet. I haven't latently missed out on an opportunity because I am a woman. However, I mean, it's always in the back of my mind because we are in a male-dominated industry. I mean, in school, all of my friends were males. That's just who I don't know. Like there were women in my class, but I feel like that's just the way that it worked out. And we do work for a women-owned business, and I feel like I would work for a women-owned business any day because they do understand those disparities within the working class. Women, I feel like, are very sometimes like overlooked to their male counterparts, like when asked like a technical question, or there have been like many instances where like because I'm young, I'm ignored in conversation, or people don't, sometimes they like go as far as not introducing themselves to me, which is, it makes me feel like I'm not even in the room, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that it also goes back to like this sort of tightrope situation where women, they want to be ambitious and, authoritative in order to succeed, but through the lens of a man that is sometimes deemed as like not appropriate or respectful. So, I mean, especially for women of color, they want to be deemed as appropriate and authoritative, but through the eyes of a white man, that is not sometimes like the best lens. Or women in like leadership roles, sometimes they're deemed as like bitchs. And I feel like that is just like a common experience in the working class, unfortunately. But like I said, I haven't missed out on opportunity because I am a woman, but there are like those systematic things that we have to deal with. And I would just like to throw it out there that being a woman of color, there are only like 500 to 600 women, Black registered architects in the whole United States. And in comparison, that's only like 0.4% of the whole entire registered architects in the whole United States in the industry. So I think interviews like this are important because I would like to think that the industry's future is going to improve as long as there are people that are willing to face the adversity to create an opportunity for all. So there's my spiel.
I'm so glad that you're here and that you're doing this work, and that, chances of someone, younger than you that looks like you seeing this and being like, wait, I can do that, like that part of it is so important too. But I believe all the things that, the experiences that you've had, I believe it. And just want to thank you for calling that out. So
Thanks.
Emily, would you
I think Brynn did a really good job. I echo, there's times when, we'll disagree with engineers or contractors on something, and I'll speak up and I'll say, no, that's not how, but if they don't receive that, they don't take it. And then it takes another meeting just to get that point across. So, being forceful with your point is often, like Brynn was saying, not well received, and being bossy, or trying to make up for something, or not knowing something, and that's just not the case, right? Like so it is difficult to often work with certain contractors or engineers or even other architects if you're partnering with people and they just have a different lens on things than you do. But I think, to echo Brynn, very happy and lucky to be working at Quorum, a women-owned firm, because it is such a unique opportunity to be so supported in this way. So
definitely. Well, I hope there becomes more. I hope the women-owned firms multiply. Awesome. Well, thank you both so much for sharing those experiences and kind of going into that, I mentioned representation being really important, and you don't have to speak specifically to people that look like you, but what would you share with, students or kids that are interested in going into this career? And yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
Emily?
I think it's okay to not know, like Brynn and I kind of had a feeling growing up, but I think it's okay to not know that, right? Like you may be going through high school right now and know that you're really good at science or math, or you're really good at being creative and art, but not know how to, put that out there. So it takes time, and, there's technical colleges for you to explore different things, or there's UWM, which has the 4-year architecture degree that you can get. I mean, there's opportunities, there's internships, there's shadowing, there's all these mentor opportunities to kind of learn more about different fields. And I think it's just like, I never did a good job of looking at all my opportunities while I was in school. And so that's just one thing that I really always want to hit home on, is like, you got to talk to people. You have to like research stuff and like look at what your other opportunities are, because otherwise you're just going to fall into something that maybe doesn't fulfill like your happiness down the line, right? And you want to make sure that you really enjoy what you're doing. So I think it's important to talk to people.
Yes. Again, I would definitely second that. I would say just always do what you're passionate about and run with that, and it will help you sort of fulfill your life later. I mean, in my experience in architecture school, I feel like I spent like a majority of like my freshman and sophomore year kind of scared to be like branching out to do like these outrageous ideas, like because I did find myself not fulfilled and not excited about my projects. So like I would see in like the reviews and the crits that like the execution would be off, because it just wasn't something that I was passionate about. So it was having an effect on like the end product. So I just wish that I would have spent more energy. Like I did more so into like my junior and senior year, but I do wish I would have spent more energy into making like my projects creatively like me, instead of doing like what I think the critics or the reviewers would like, or what I think would be perfect, or because I found that, yeah, it wasn't very fulfilling for me. And I mean, I think now in my work, I find that I am fulfilled and I am happy and I'm excited about the projects that I'm working on. So
well, good. I'm glad you got to that point, but I can understand why that transition would be hard, going from like regular school to architecture school, of like, you always want to get a good grade. So you're like giving people what you think they want. So
yes.
I'm glad that you were able to finally get that creative energy into your projects.
And in architecture school, I mean, the critiques that she mentioned, I mean, it is a lot different than you would think of a typical schooling, because you're focused in studios where you're working on a specific project, you're drawing, you're physically like modeling with cardboard or paper or something. And then having external people come and critique you on that and say what is wrong with it, and not often highlighting what is good or understanding all the thought that you went into it. And that's part of the learning process in school too, is how to get your thoughts there and fully express that. But kind of getting thick skin is gonna happen in architecture school. And just knowing that, you're so young, it's okay, you don't know, like that's the whole point of like growing and developing those skills, and accepting that you don't know what you don't know, right?
Yeah. Totally.
That's so true.
Wow. Yeah. Well, those are all of the questions that I have, but if there's anything else you want to share before we wrap up, I just kind of wanted to leave the floor open a little bit.
I don't have anything.
No need to. I'm not trying to pry anything out of you. Just wanted to.
I would just say, if you're interested in design or architecture or engineering, construction at all, like look to your neighbors, look to your local community. The bid is a really good resource, and they're connected to all sorts of people like us. And there's always opportunity to shadow, to learn more, to get involved. So don't be afraid.
Yeah,
Awesome.
what she said.
Well, thank you both so much for your time. We really appreciate it. I really enjoyed this conversation, honestly.
Thank you. So did I.
Yeah,
Yeah, thank you for hosting.
of course. Yeah, it's good to get some different insight into the work that we're all doing. And so
Yeah.
just want to thank you, and thank you to everyone that was able to join on Facebook or watch or watch after. We appreciate, all the support, and I will leave it at that. I hope you all have a good rest of your Wednesday.
Thank you.
Thank you, Emery.